Hi, good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about TARA. TARA stands for Travel Assistant and Recommendation Agent. And essentially, TARA is an AI-based conversational agent. And what we believe is that this technology is going to redefine customer experience of the future. But before we talk about TARA, I'll briefly touch upon what Ixigo is. I don't know if everybody knows about Ixigo. So Ixigo is the largest mobile travel platform marketplace in the country. What we essentially do is we aggregate travel content from multiple players and then make it bookable. And that's how we help people plan, book, and experience travel. So some key numbers here. So we've been, since inception, we have clocked about 150 million downloads, 30 million monthly active users, 500 million monthly sessions, and about 3 billion screen views per month. And the best part is that all of this is without any marketing spend at all. So one of the reasons why we've been able to do that is because, right from the beginning, we always had this culture of innovation. And if you think about it, it takes a lot of courage for an organization to spend disproportionate amount of resources on something which is not going to yield any results in the short term, right? And that's why 2011 is when we created a research lab within the organization. Back then, we were only about 10 engineers, right? Out of that, 1 engineer was dedicated to AI in 2011. Now, that's like 10% of your resources. The reason why we did that is because we believe that if you really want to disrupt something, then you need to always spend 10 to 15% of your time on disruptive things and not on your normal roadmap. And that's because when the disruption happens in an ecosystem, you don't want to be the disrupted company. You want to be the company that does the disruption. So that's where we started it, and then we started building disruptive things. A lot of them did not work. For example, back then, 2012, we built travel knowledge graph. Like we crawled all the data on the internet related to travel, and we built a knowledge graph. We also tried to solve the problem of taking people from point A to point B, which was a big problem back then. So, we thought that how can we combine multiple modes of transport, whether it is flights, buses, trains, and cabs all together, add to it the nuances of traveling in India with different road conditions and different sort of comfort levels that different modes of transport have, and then build a multimodal product, which was, again, non-trivial. Nobody had done that back then. We also built a natural language search engine on top of it. Again, something which was way ahead of its time. People could not understand. They were more comfortable with normal user interfaces where people just said, OK, I want to go from point A to point B, and that's it. However, once we started doing that, we realized that a lot of people would understand what we were doing, and we started getting traction, if not through product, then through other areas. And once we entered the mobile era, that's where we started to solve more for the bottom of the pyramid, which is basically the next billion users right now. Nobody was solving for their pain areas because obviously it was very hard to monetize from them. Back then, people did not believe that it was people could monetize from that sort of audience. So, but once we started doing it, we started getting a lot of traction on our apps. So once we started getting a lot of tractions on our apps, we had a lot of data to play around with. Once we had that data, we started building intelligence on top of it. So the first thing that we did was when we had a lot of PNR status data of trains, we started creating a predictive model which could tell you whether a train ticket will get confirmed or not, even before you buy it. That was the first time somebody had done something like that. It led to huge word of mouth. It led to a lot of growth. Again, more growth, more users, more data. And we started building more predictive algorithms based on top of data, intelligence on top of data. So we started predicting airfares, whether fares of a particular flight would go down or up over the next 7 days, 15 days. We started using all the knowledge graph and the intelligence that we had built to also create a chatbot back then. It was basically a foray into how to create an alternate user experience, a user interface where people could use a conversational paradigm to access the same set of information. And then essentially led to voice-based AI, where we started building Tara. And then we built a bunch of other products. And that culture of innovation and working on top of data and building intelligence continued. So essentially what we did in the last decade is, like, if I summarize the first half of our existence, we gathered a lot of data, a lot of third-party APIs, a lot of publicly available information, a lot of information that we got from our customers, how they used it, the queries that they have, the emails that they sent us, all of that. In the second half of our existence, we made sense of all that data that we harvested over the years. And then, finally, we started building intelligent AI algorithms on top of it to create a more personalized experience for end users, which essentially is what we call Tara. So let me just briefly talk about what it is. And like I said, Tara is an AI-driven conversational agent. We have kind of evolved it over time. Right now, it's completely built on deep learning. One of the important things about Tara is that it is contextually aware and it's also stateful. It's really important to understand that for most conversational systems, they fail because of this lack of contextual awareness. People do not know what I'm talking about. So once I talk about something, Tara can actually refer back to it. It can backtrack several conversations to understand and make sense of that. And stateful is also important. Like, it's a little bit different from contextual awareness, because what it means is that some triggers, whether it is conversational or actions that a consumer takes or Tara does, takes it from one state to another. So state transitions are triggered by how people are interacting with her, right? The other most important thing about conversational systems is that, see, right now with the current state of technology, it's incredibly hard to build something which can be completely automated, right? And you still need human beings. So it was designed to work with human beings. So the most important thing is that most of the time, chatbots or conversational systems do not understand what they don't understand. That is very important, because in our case, we had to build that intelligence because we wanted it to augment human beings. We didn't want it to replace them, because it's too early for that. I mean, general AI completion will take a long, long time. I mean, for all we might be talking about, but it's still a little far away. So it knows when it doesn't know, and it can seamlessly connect to a human agent, which was one of the biggest learnings. The other important thing is that since it is a knowledge-based system, it needs to be connected to our own knowledge graph, right? Because, and it needs to be connected to all our business systems as well, because imagine somebody is asking about their refund. Now, I cannot answer that question unless I do not know what happened to the payment, what happened to the interactions with the payment gateway. So there are different systems connected to multiple payment gateways, to the bank systems, what happened once the user canceled, what was the reason for the cancellation. There are several systems that Tara needs to talk to understand that, summarize all of that, and then present that to the end user as the final information, right? This is the reason why your refund is not processed, and this is when it will happen, and stuff like that. So what happened with all of that is that today, Tara is handling customer support for us, and she's able to handle about 70% of all customer support queries that we get in a completely automated fashion, right? And the rest of the 30% is obviously goes to human agents, and this is great for the business, because like our evolution has happened in a way that we transition from becoming a completely informational system to more transactional system. So today we handle millions of transactions on a monthly basis, and once you do that at that scale, obviously there's a lot of customer hand-holding, because we are a very customer-centric company. So if any customer has any complaints, you want to know about them, you want to handle them, and you want to be obsessed with it. And you can't do it because there's a cost factor as well. You can't set up a call center with 1,000 people, 2,000 people, because we're also a very nimble company running in a very frugal way. Like I mentioned, we reached here without spending anything on marketing, right? So we had to figure out a way with technology to handle all of that. And this was what the evolution of Tara was. So in brief, how it works. So like I mentioned, the contextual awareness is the key to the success of this system. And the fact that it's connected to all the existing travel knowledge graph that we built over the years and all the APIs and business systems that we have in place. And then obviously, uses AI to understand, what the user is saying and reasoning to reply back to the user. And obviously, there's this loop of adaptive learning, because unless you don't do that, you cannot improve, right? Because it's an ever-evolving system. So this will not be complete, and I know this is like beating a dead horse, but voice is definitely, what everybody's talking about. So voice, videos, and vernacular is what the next billion users is all about. So we just briefly want to talk about it and why we had to enable Tara on voice, because voice was definitely the most natural way of interacting. I mean, everything else, if you think about it, which was built over the last 20 years, was some kind of a hack that technology built to make it easier to use. And if it was not because our understanding, the systems that have been built over time, like the natural language understanding system or the speech recognition or the text-to-speech systems. I mean, all these systems have had to evolve to a certain stage where it became really, really natural to talk to an intelligent system. And the system talks back to you. And the system cannot talk back to you like the announcements at the airport, right? Because that's really dumb. It has to talk back to you in a way which is completely natural, right? Like human beings talk. So the voice has to evolve on both sides, whether it is understanding side, speech recognition side, or text-to-speech side. And obviously, cognitive side is a big issue as well, which is where people are building their own intelligent systems, right? So, so what happens now is that since voice is the UI, then what happens with the apps? The apps continue to exist, or everybody's apps will evolve into a conversational system, and all the user interface will go away. Well, not entirely true, and it is not going to happen immediately. And the reason is that so if you think about it, a lot of apps might cease to exist because the use cases are too small for somebody to, because the friction of actually downloading and installing an app, it's very high. So if you think about existing conversational systems like WhatsApp and WeChat, you see that they're building an ecosystem, right, of users and how people interact. So if you're already in the system, the friction of actually using a new e-commerce system is very low, because you can just interact and use it. And that's why all these systems are going to become super apps of some sort at some point of time, because they'll make using other services much, much easier for you, right? And that is why one of the learnings that you can get from that is you can use conversational systems to improve the UX of your app. Remember that an app is a limited screen UX, right? You've got one screen, and you've got certain features. Tomorrow, your roadmap will have 20 more features. How do you cram all that into the same real estate? You can't do that, and you need to have some intelligent system to onboard people to new features, and then conversational systems really fit that paradigm. So what we are saying is that if we marry conversational systems with the existing app ecosystem, what you get is a hybrid system, right? And it actually eliminates the need for users to learn the complex bespoke user interfaces of every company's app. I don't need to learn every app, right, and how to use it, which gave birth to the idea of voice over apps. And this is where Tara evolved into not just solving customer support issues, but also solving how people use our apps. And this is a learning we had when we were building for the next billion users, because when we're building our trains app, we realized that a lot of users did not know how to use it. They didn't know how to navigate through the app. They didn't know how to do payments, didn't know how to do bookings. All these things was too complicated. For us, it was natural because we used to using so many apps, right, in our lives. But for them, it was extremely hard. So we had to build something. So what we did is we plugged in the intelligence of Tara and the conversational platform right inside the app. So what it did is that it made the app a multimodal user interface. I mean, this is an industry first thing. What we're saying is that there's a voice user interface and there's a visual user interface. They both coexist. The voice interface is personalized, right? It's also full duplex, which means that it is talking to you and you are talking to it, right? And it is helping you navigate through the app, right? So it can actually at times take you through 5 different screens without you realizing it. Otherwise, you would have to click through 5 different screens to reach the same goal, right? And obviously, it supports multiple languages right now, English and Hindi. We are working on other languages as well. I know the concept is a little bit hard to understand, and that's why I've got a couple of videos just to show this technology in action, right?
Please select a train. Our recommendation is Sharmjeevi Express, train number 12,392. As per our prediction, there are 80% chances of your ticket getting confirmed.
So what you will notice about this is that, so you saw that, I don't know if you could hear about it. Okay, let's see this and then we'll
Today we are proud to be launching a travel assistant and a recommendation agent, Tara.
Hi, Rajnish. I was planning your Christmas getaway.
One of the best demonstrations of this type of technology.
Tara is the world's first travel assistant which is completely powered by deep learning.
Fares for Bali are likely to go down. Would you like me to book as soon as that happens?
Ixigo's track record with mobile is off the charts.
You want me to check you into a front row aisle seat as soon as check-in opens?
The idea of assisted booking is very attractive. I think it's a great idea.
Well, I love the bet on voice, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in it.
Yeah, so if you, just going back to what we were talking about, if you see that essentially you'll notice that you could talk to this system in both English and Hindi. You also notice that you could use a combination because one of the sentences was a mix of English and Hindi, which is very common, right? So at the understanding level, it was really important. What you also would have noticed in that video was that the app was still running in the background. Depending on my use case, so if I had been searching for running status of a specific train, and I come back to app, the system will automatically prompt me and will ask me to pick up from where I left, which is what makes it so intuitive, like the system. And it onboards you using voice, right? So you don't need to actually learn where to figure out how to tap which button and how to find out. See, the whole complexity of designing the right UX for the right audience is not there anymore because it's also natural, right? The other piece of information was that you notice that when the system navigated you from one place to the other, finally you ended up having the information that you wanted. But that information, when you see it inside the app, is really complex. So if you see the running status of a train, it's like a screen which has got tons of information. It has all the stations where the train has been to, where it currently is, whether it is delayed or not, what happened at every place. So cognitively, it's a lot of load for an end user to actually capture this information and understand what it's trying to say. And you will notice that what the system did was that it beautifully summarized the entire screen for you, and it voiced it up for you. So you don't have to do that go through that cognitive load of understanding what the screen was trying to do for you. So that was the multimodal interface voiceover app, which is also, and that's why we no longer call Tara just a conversational agent which is handling customer support, but it is something which is actually redefining the customer experience end to end, right? And we believe that if you look at the future, then the future is is about these systems becoming more and more natural. And imagine a scenario where you could do a full duplex voice or even video, where the videos are completely generated using generative algorithms. And even better than that would be that you're able to talk to a person live, and that person might not even exist, but might be from the same area as you are. And that gives you that emotional connect and empathy, so that person really understands what you're talking about. Can solve all your problems, and imagine getting an entire booking done completely over voice in your local language, right? That is the future. It's really far away, but then all these building blocks, like we said, all of them are coming together nicely, and at some point of time, all these things will be feasible. But until that, it is still sci-fi. But that's what we believe, and that's what we are trying to build. Been building it for the last 3 years, but and we still think there's a long way to go. And for us, Tara is the future of, it's exactly like the travel agent of the past, right? It's exactly like that, but it's not human, right? And because it's not human, it doesn't come with the flaws of human beings, which is that they will not cheat, they will not only show you 2 deals and then one high price, one low price, and then you'll say, okay, I'll take the low price one. She knows everything because she's connected to all the internet. She has all the deals. And she's also available 24/7, right? I mean, your travel agent was taking vacations, right? She doesn't take vacations, so you can take your vacations, right? So that's it. Thank you.